Oh, hey there, friends. We finally made it to our little spot here. This is one of our favorite little spots here in Luperon, Playa Grande. At my little friends cantina here.
Yep.
I sit here on day to day.
Yeah.
I read philosophy, and Mary Beth, the girls are down there looking for sea glass.
Looking for sea glass. Yep. They
So-
meditate in their own way.
So Tony, I told you this little story. We were telling our story of what we were doing to some cruising friends in the bar the other day.
Yep.
And one of them said, "Look, man, I've got kids in the States and I've got grandkids." He said, "Can you talk about non-attachment?" And I thought, well, we have a very stoic approach to that.
We do.
So your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, we've got a stoic approach, and we've got some experience too. So.
Well, there's that.
So here's my thought initially about non-attachment. It's so damn complicated that telling someone to be non-attached usually doesn't result in a whole lot.
Sounds offensive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And then people, just like in the bar, ask us things like, what does that look like, and how do I do it, and how do I still care about people I love and things I think are important and be non-attached? And that's really where the rubber hits the road, and that's what makes what we do all about practical philosophy. So food for thought, Michael. What if, in order to be non-attached, first you had to understand why you were attached?
True that.
I mean,
True that. I think so. We can relate this. How do I do that? I mean, throughout our lives, yours and my life,
You got
I mean, in my military career, being gone weeks, months and months,
Exactly.
with a new child, a wife at home.
No.
I couldn't do my job if I was always worried about what was going on, what was going on, what was going on, what was going on.
Exactly.
But nature is about non-attachment.
got it.
Anywhere from the birds to the bears, right? We
got
spend time raising and nurturing,
Yep.
and then we send them off out of the nest.
Exactly.
Right.
There's no safety in this life, and there isn't supposed to be. But that's where the magic is. And attachment is about making everything so tight and integral and held together that there's no room for chance. There's no room for the magic of a motorcycle that's just driving by the
Welcome
beach.
to Luperon.
Yeah. Everyone's on a motorcycle. That's cool. But there's no room for, we would say serendipity or chance. There's no room for that. But that's the stuff of life. You can't control everything. Sometimes you want to, sometimes you try. Usually it results in failure. So the attachment, non-attachment thing, really, the more attached you get to things, the further away you get from the natural order of how the world works. And the Stoics absolutely believe this.
Right. I kind of relate that to being here in the now.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I could be quite attached to that boat.
Oh yes.
As I have it now.
Yes.
But if it goes away, what does that do to me?
So yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And I mean,
exactly.
that's a big extreme, but
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, you and I both live on board boats, and I have, as I believe is the case with you, I only have so many connections to my previous life. I don't own the real estate I once owned. The wonderful, beautiful library I owned. I mean, I'm a philosopher. I had a big library. That's gone. I mean, and in fact, when I started selling off and giving away things and donating stuff from my house, a lifetime of accumulation, I realized, even though I was really angry about realizing it, how attached I was to that stuff. So you know what I did? The first stuff I got rid of were my books, the prized possessions, the things that I cared the most about. I started giving those away. People I thought would appreciate them, trying to donate them. I rapidly realized that they weren't worth anything in terms of selling. They were worth a whole lot to me in terms of my attachment to them. I love books. I still love books, but I own virtually none.
true that, and was my experience. Here's just an aside. So both of us divested ourselves of a whole lot of things that we held very closely to.
You got it.
And I found once I did decide to let go of those things,
Yep.
It was hard to get rid of it because nobody wants your stuff.
Exactly.
And so that kind of made me think.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
if they don't want it, why am I holding so tightly to it?
Exactly. What's the value in this stuff if it's not monetary and if it's not the lust for this thing? So that's where the attachment lives. For me, I grew up without a whole lot. I would never say I was poor. I had food on the table. My parents took good care of me. But books were so highly valued and they were so rare So, I was one of those kids where the public library convinced me to become a mountaineer and a sailor, just through me reading. But any book I got, I kept. I mean, any book. I could hate the book. I kept it. At some point, it was a little bit pathological, in my opinion. Keeping a hold of things that you don't actually really love, but you like the idea of them, that's attachment.
All right, let's bring this back.
Here we go.
I think it's pretty easy concept to let go of stuff.
Yes.
Let go of stuff. Now.
Yeah, you're going to hit me with a
I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you with it hard.
Yeah.
Our loved ones, people.
Yes.
I mean, so here's what we got to figure out is, how do we grasp around that non-attachment? Non-attachment doesn't mean not caring.
Exactly. So the traveling vagabond life that you and I lead, is partially training for that. So, big philosophical pronouncements, I can give you all kinds of those, but practical stuff, you got to practice this. And you got to practice it in a way where you communicate openly with your loved ones that you don't get to see as often as you like. I still think about you. I still do love you. In fact, I care about you even more as time goes by and I don't get to see you daily as perhaps I once did. But at the same time, to be attached to that is an idea of those people. An idea in my case for some people, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that you can't freeze people in time, and you shouldn't. I even think that's kind of unethical because they got their own stuff going on and they're doing what they're doing. So we can value the relationships we've got, we can value how we feel about people, but we have to be careful not to freeze them in the past, and then bring that into the future. We are where we are,
right,
and they are where they are, and we can honor and value them without having to just keep them as a fixed memory, without really treating them as a whole person.
Right. Yes, and it is difficult to go from that memory of, let's take from my daughter, for instance,
exactly.
being home every day,
Yeah.
cooking for her every morning, going through homework, and now she goes off to school, and now she's living her own life, right? I was blessed to have her here in Luperon with us for a week this summer.
Yeah.
And it was that hug was sweet.
Yep.
It was sweet. I hadn't seen her in 4 years before that.
Yeah, I hear you.
But it was also good to get her back to her life.
Yeah.
Right. With some new experiences, but she's back to her life, living hers, and fully understands that we're living ours.
So isn't it interesting? Because as you know, I'm raising a child. My wife and I are raising a child right now, even as we're on the boat. And right now, we had a little bit of a going on this morning because she's got to do some schoolwork. That's how it is. We don't have her in school. She's boat schooled or homeschooled for those of you at home. There's certain expectations. And when you're boat schooling or homeschooling a kid, they've got to accept some responsibility. Now, she accepted the responsibility, and then she didn't do a whole damn lot with it over the past two months or so.
You and I were no different in school.
No, exactly. But so how do I become non-attached about that? Well, the answer is it's a sliding scale. So this morning there was a little bit of what we like to call the come to daddy-o talk. That way we don't sound sacrilegious to anyone. And when daddy-o says, enough talk, show me the goods, and she doesn't have any goods to show, then we got to have a little bit of discussion about that. Now, I'm a little bit attached to the schooling thing. Not a whole lot. I have a bit of a checkered past with the schooling thing, but that's for another episode. But I think some education is important. I think you should have some idea of how to read and write properly and all the rest of it. And when I've got someone that isn't doing that, I get attached to that idea. So here I am with a girl child.
True, but we're also talking about roles, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of how you said it's architectural.
Yep.
You have to at some point you have to separate yourself from the loving daddy
Yes.
to the authoritative teacher.
Exactly.
Right. So you have unattached. You have unattached
Exactly.
from this, and while maybe not attached and identified as the teacher, you have to act in that role.
Yes.
Right? So
yes. And let's be clear. Tons of philosophers have talked about roles. The social ones are put on us. The ones we bring on because in the absence of anything else we don't know what to do. Jean-Paul Sartre, as an existentialist, talked a whole lot about being for others, being in itself, being for itself. Well, many books have been written on that, but the point is we understand that roles are not quite the same as completely identifying with something, that sometimes we have to go through the motions for a greater good without saying that's who I am all the time. And sometimes it is who we are, and that changes over. So the serendipity, the change thing, you got to be flexible with this stuff. And non-attachment, in my mind, at the heart and soul of it, is actually flexibility while staying in the moment, seeing what's actually there and being flexible and open to that.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of woo, I know.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
and we've said, hey, there is woo here.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care how you do it, but there's got to be a part of that to that.
You got it.
Okay, coming back to our friend's query. So his quandary is, hey, I've got two boys.
Yep.
They're grown. They're doing their own thing. Two boys in the States, but I really want to live this lifestyle that we're living here. And how do I disattach from that need to be amongst them all the time, or every week, or every month, or readily available? It's not easy.
No, it's not. But if I were to talk with our friend about this, what I'd say to him is, first, be open about the problem. So those boys who are men,
whom you raised to be independent.
Exactly. But you got to go to them at one point, and none of us want to get into that thing, but you got to say, you know what? Here I am ready to go sailing, and like I'm having a tough time because I'm not getting to see. Like you got to be upfront about that stuff, because here's the wisdom in it. Those boys who are now men, they don't want their dad giving up on his life's dream and not doing what he needs to get done. And maybe that's actually what he needs to hear. So, like non-attachment, it's got a little bit of, getting the ego out of it. And I think, for me at least, the easiest way to do that is to be like kind of transparent about this, especially with the talking people that are involved. So when I look at my daughter and I say, you know what, in about 2 years' time, it's university time. And she looks at me and she says, yeah, and I'm chomping at the bit, like I want to go. And I'm trying not to shed tears. But at that point, the realization comes. Like in the case of children, you've raised someone who's capable, and you got to make sure that you honor that and represent that properly. And they're going to give you back a little bit of the support to do what you need to. So this is a social thing. No one goes non-attached on their own easily.
No.
We rely on our brothers and sisters to help us along the way.
It is a process. It is a process, and fortunately, technology today makes it so much easier. Like I said earlier, I hadn't seen my daughter in 4 years, but a Sunday morning text, just hey, thinking about you. An occasional FaceTime. There are so many tools for us.
You got it.
It breaks my heart, and I tell you, it does break my heart when, and we've got like 3 boats here that you get. Hey, I've got kids, I've got grandkids.
I know.
I've got to sell my boat
I know.
and forget my dream and go back home. I promise you, our children don't want us to give up our dreams.
No.
But it's so in that non-attachment.
Yep.
It's incumbent upon us to find ways to keep those connections where they mean, but we can do that in the architecture of peace for ourselves.
You got it.
And that's what it is, living a life well, living peaceful within myself, knowing that I'm not just a car drive away or whatever. I can't bear to be there. Confident that we've raised them well and able to manage life on their own. We've not abandoned them.
Oh, no. All the things that we want to give to people that matter in their lives. Children, friends, spouses, parents. Got a mother who lives 5,000 miles away from me, and she's elderly. She's in great shape, and she's elderly. And she's not happy about her grandchild being moved away from her. But all the things that we want to be able to give those people, including our time and our connection, first we got to take care of ourselves. And I mean that in like a profound way. I mean, if you're filled with regret, you may be a block away from your family members, but you're not giving them anything. What you're giving them is a broken shell of what you could give them. So we've got to take care of ourselves, we've got to take care of others. They're not separate. The Stoics knew this. This is your civic duty. This is your Roman duty if you read Aurelius.
Right.
He's not just talking about civics like politics and government.
No, he's talking about community.
Community.
Yes.
And when Aurelius wrote, he was talking to himself. He wasn't writing to be published. He was writing to remind himself of shit that even he knew he would forget from time to time.
Don't we all?
So, in the end, non-attachment, got to understand the attachment piece, then got to be honest about it, and got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others properly.
Amen, brother. All right, so I don't know how do we wrap this. I mean, we could wrestle around this for 62 years.
Yeah, exactly. and beyond that, it's a nice hot day. We should probably be seeking out a beer at some point. So
right. Okay, friends, yeah, this was a tough one. Give us your comments. Let us know what you think about this. Let's continue this conversation. As with all of our conversations, it's not a one and done. We just keep it going. Y'all have a blessed day. Until next time.